Welcome back. This week, ISIS militants declared the official formation of an Islamic caliphate comprising parts of Syria and Iraq. Now, the group changed their name and seeks to exert dominion over the world's Muslims. All of this raises serious questions. So was ISIS armed by the United States? Did Benghazi feed into this, and how? And what would a modern-day caliphate look like, and what effect would it have on the world? Joining me now is author Kenneth Timmerman, whose latest book, Dark Forces: The Truth About What Happened in Benghazi, may shed some light on this. Kenneth, good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
So Hillary Clinton had said that this situation right now in Iraq with ISIS is something that she could have never prevented or have foreseen. Your thoughts on this?
Pathetic. Look, I've gone to northern Iraq a number of times in recent years. I was there again last year. Everybody was watching this situation develop. I was in Mosul not long ago, and we knew that ISIS and al-Qaeda in Iraq and different jihadi groups were outside of Mosul. They were inside of Mosul. They were attacking Christians and burning churches and trying to drive Christians out. So we know that this has been brewing, and the worst thing the administration can possibly do is what Obama is proposing, which is this $500 million to arm yet another group of Syrian rebels who want to have an Islamic supremacist jihadi caliphate state.
And just like with how the president reacted in Libya, not even really knowing the full extent of whose side we were getting on, just like he did in Egypt, we're making the same mistake as you said again. What do we know about ISIS? I mean, obviously they're very extremist. What do we know about them? Why on earth would we be getting involved in this?
Well, one thing we know about ISIS, and by the way, the president is not talking about arming them, thank goodness, but it's not much better. ISIS is extraordinarily competent when it comes to their military operations. They got the Iraqi army to give up the city of Mosul, the third largest city in Baghdad, basically without firing a shot. And now they have decided to kind of hold their ground, to occupy the ground, declare this Islamic State, which they believe is the beginning of the caliphate. Look, Dana, this does go back to Benghazi. It goes into Syria. The United States was deeply engaged in trafficking arms, both into Libya, into Benghazi, and from Benghazi out to jihadi groups. Now, some might say that was done without the United States government authorization. I don't think that's true. I tracked some of the shipments of surface-to-air missiles that were going out of Libya through the desert in Niger and then off into the Sinai and other places. And my sources tell me that these are people inside the United States government in the military establishment. They asked for authorization to take out some of those shipments with Predator drones, and they were denied. They were told that it was an authorized shipment.
Wow. That's pretty unbelievable, because obviously, you know, Benghazi, and as we said in the introduction, I mean, you've written the book on this. There's so much more to it than just what we have heard in the headlines, and I keep thinking, how is this? It seems that it is so connected to everything that we have been reading, every headline that has come up in the past several months on this, and that would explain it. I mean, this. Explain a little bit more, shed a little bit light on this. I mean, could Benghazi possibly have been used to funnel weapons that now to ISIS or to any of these factions in Iraq?
Well, I call the arms trafficking by the CIA and by countries such as Qatar with the authorization of the United States, I call this the original sin of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, of the administration. They had to cover that up with the original spin of creating this story about the YouTube video.
Right.
Did some of those weapons wind up in the hands of jihadis? Absolutely. One of the things that got me going, and I described this in Dark Forces, is the shoot down of a U.S. helicopter in Afghanistan in July of 2012. Now, it turns out that helicopter was shot down with a Stinger missile. Why do we know that? Because the missile did not explode, and I should correct myself and say it wasn't shot down. The pilot actually made a hard landing, and they found a fragment of the missile in the engine nacelle with the serial number. The serial number tracked back to a lot that had been signed out to the CIA.
So it seems as though it's made this problem worse. It's a problem that has been made worse by our own doing.
Absolutely. Now, I don't want to say that the CIA delivered those missiles to the Taliban, because that is not true. But they made their way to the Taliban.
They got there.
In other words, the missiles got out of control.
Right.
They were sent into Benghazi for a specific purpose. We lost track of them. And trying to get those missiles back is one of the things I think that Ambassador Chris Stevens got caught up in.
Now, Iraq is trying to form their new government, yet today people walked out of the proceedings because nobody has stepped up. Who possibly could we get? I know that there was talk of Ahmed Chalabi stepping up. It was a supporter of the war in Iraq. Where was he at today?
Well, you know, Chalabi is quite a political figure. I've known him for a number of years. I've lost track of him in recent years. The United States tried to kill him in 2004. They broke into his house. I remember being on a cell phone with one of his aides at that point, and they were basically calling everybody they possibly could to get the United States other government agencies to stand down. He's a wily character. He is an Iraqi nationalist, I believe. He has relations with Tehran, and that's one of the things that got him in trouble with the United States government, a too cozy relationship with Tehran. But I believe he's an Iraqi nationalist first, and he's also somebody who can bridge the sectarian divide because he's done it.
Yeah, been successful. What effect would an independent Kurdistan have on stability in the Middle East right now? Because that was the other topic today, not only with the new formation of an Iraqi government, but an independent Kurdistan. What effect would that have on stability?
Well, I think it's clear that the Kurds would like to have an independent Kurdistan. Whenever you go into their government buildings, as I've done many times, they have maps of the greater Kurdistan, which includes, you know, Iranian Kurdistan, Iraqi Kurdistan, the Syrian part, and the Turkish part. I know that Iran and Turkey and Syria in particular would not be very happy about that. So they have been careful in how they have put forward their political demands. I have another particular concern. While I think the Kurds are definitely a pro-American force in the region, and they are a friend of the United States and have been very helpful to us, and we've been helpful to them, I am concerned about their political domination of the Christian population in the Nineveh Plain. They're seeking to annex those areas where the Christians live just outside of Mosul, and which recently have become the battleground for ISIS. So you've got ISIS inside Mosul shelling the Christian territories, the Christian villages, and then the Kurds just on the other side shelling back the Christians. As they tell me again and again, they're the meat in the sandwich between the Kurds and the Arabs.
Oh, goodness. And I know the president has, he's pledged to send, 300 Green Berets, troops on the ground over in Iraq. And there's reports that more could possibly be sent. Is this going to, I'm assuming that this would in some way kind of alleviate this murder of innocents. You mentioned the Christians being persecuted. They're basically being offered two choices over there. You can live in Dimitude or pay jizya, or you leave. That's essentially it. Give us some insight on that.
Well, or you will be murdered. And I've met so many families of Christians who have been murdered by jihadi groups. I've met and spoken with people whose family members were killed in the church in Baghdad that Halloween not too long ago. I wrote a separate book about this called St. Peter's Bones. Look, it is a tragic situation. The U.S. has never done a thing to help them. The Christian parties have been asking for quite some time to have an autonomous province or a region in the Nineveh Plain. Maliki agreed to it. The Kurdish president agreed to it. The Talabani, the Kurdish president of Iraq. Most of the political leaders agreed to it, but yet there was not the will to actually make it happen. 300 U.S. troops. Look, we had 30,000, and we could just barely keep the peace. You think 300 is going to keep the peace?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm right with you on that. Kenneth Timmerman, author of Dark Forces, The Truth About What Happened in Benghazi. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.